Hello and welcome to the Life at Leyton Podcast with me, Sarah Glanville, as your host. Here at Leyton UK, we know our people are more than just their job. The careers of our people are part of their unique lives, and who they are as a whole person is what fundamentally contributes to their success and the success of our business. In the podcast, we'll spend time with one of our exceptional people from across the business. And in each episode, we'll look to explore the people behind the job titles, the unique and brilliant stories that make them who they are. In today's episode, I got to spend the afternoon with the wonderful Sarah Anderson, our Senior Strategic Partnerships Manager at Leyton UK. Today, Sarah and I discussed her life as a working parent, which is reflective of the story of a lot of our people here at Leyton. We'll explore her experience returning to work after maternity leave and the support and flexibility she needed and still needs to succeed at work. There are some absolute gems in today's episode. Sarah has been her honest and hilarious self. This really is a real conversation about what life as a working parent is like. So thank you for tuning in. Grab yourself a coffee and get ready to be inspired by the people that are Leyton UK. Hello Sarah, welcome to episode 2 of the Life at Leyton podcast. Thank you for saying yes to being here. Our first episode with me and Nicola was more of an introduction to the podcast, so this feels like the real first episode. I'm so glad you're here with me for it. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. I feel like we're going to have a ton to talk about today, Sarah. I feel like you're probably one of the only people in the Glasgow office that can out-talk me, so yes. I'm very excited to set you off.
Leyton for it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to set you off and hear all about your life at Leyton. So, I guess to get us started, do you want to introduce yourself to all our listeners and talk us through your career journey so far?
Yes. So, hello everybody. My name is Sarah Anderson. I have been with Leyton for about 5 years next week. I head up our partnership programme for the UK at the moment in time, and I started with Leyton in a BDM capacity 5 years ago.
Yep.
And yeah, it's been a whirlwind journey. I can't believe it's been 5 years, but it's been exciting.
Yeah, exciting. Really, so a couple of promotions within your time at Leyton?
Yes, so I started at BDM, I did a year, very successfully. It was really good. I got a Rolex bonus from it, which was fantastic, which is one of the incentives for the BDs.
Yeah.
Paid for me to go to on a fabulous holiday for my 30th, which was lovely. And then I briefly did supported with the talent development side of things, the training and development, I should say, and then moved over to head up the sales development function for Scotland.
Awesome.
And I did that right the way until I went on maternity leave in November of 2020.
Yeah. And
then when I came back, I kind of migrated back over to the business development side to take on the partnerships position.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, a couple of different things.
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like when you speak to people at Leyton who have been here for a number of years, most people have had exposure to different business areas and have tried different roles here. It's nice to see the kind of route, the organic route that you've taken through the different roles so far.
Definitely.
So, as is the aim of the podcast, Sarah, I know that so much of your professional success and journey has been down to who you are as a whole person, not just inside work but outside as well. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about what the last few years have looked like for you outside of Leyton?
Yes. So if we go back to 2020, as I say, I went on a fabulous holiday for my 30th.
Yeah.
Came back and COVID was all the rage. I found out I was pregnant the same day that they announced the lockdown.
No way.
Which was, interesting, to say the least. So that was interesting. At the time, we had just onboarded a huge volume of new starts as well in sales dev. So it was trying to migrate a function who's always been office based.
Yeah.
Unlike the business development team that are out in the field, this is a complete function that's always has been internal. So that in itself was challenging to try and get everybody home, including new joiners who had literally been with us for a week or 10 days at the time. So that was all fun and games. My fiance works offshore, at the time was overseas, so he was home for a wee bit while everything was at its peak, and then he went to Finland for work. No, he went to Germany for work at that point, in May, and that was him. Didn't come home until 2 weeks before I gave birth. So that was fun. Wow,
oh my god. So like that whole time,
just me and the dog at home,
and
going walks, working loads, and that was it. Do you know what? It was actually, I mean, I got so much done from a working perspective. From, like a social, what it's like when, back then nobody knew anything about how bad COVID was or anything like that. So pregnant people weren't to go anywhere, so you just stayed at home. So it was quite good from that side of things. I had the dog, I just went walks, got loads of work done, and pretty much threw myself into it. Had my daughter at the end of November, which was amazing. Again, straight back into another lockdown, didn't we? So that was, I suppose, an interesting first couple of months as we tried to juggle absolutely everything, and then Colin had gone away again, so that was fun. But I was on maternity leave for half of 2021, so I came back on a phased return, and then it's just been juggling life, everything else. We're planning a wedding, and there's been so much going on with the new role, and it's been all go.
I mean, some huge life changes. I mean, a pandemic for one. Engagement, planning a wedding, and of course becoming a parent, which is probably one of the biggest changes that anyone's life could take. So what was your experience like returning to work after having your little one? How did things change?
It's very different to go off, especially when, obviously I work in the sales capacity, and I have done for years now, even prior to starting with Leyton. You're used to everything being, or I was always used to everything being really focused on work and development, and number one priorities, getting the job done and really focusing on that. And I think when you have a baby, as much as you still have that drive and development, your primary focus has to change, and it shifts to the B1. So it was a big challenge. Obviously with Colin working away, again, it adds further challenges to it, because I'm effectively doing it on my own for 3 weeks every 6 weeks. So it was interesting. Actually coming back to work was fantastic. Management were really supportive of it. I did a phased return back, which was great. So I did some keeping in touch days throughout the kind of first month or so, and then I came back using annual leave on a kind of 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and I ended up, I dropped a day to do childcare, so I've only come back 4 days, which is fantastic. On one hand it's great, on the other hand I have my daughter and now my 1-year-old niece as well on a Friday, so it's not as relaxed as you would anticipate. When people say, oh, you got a day off on Friday, I think, you're probably going to have an easier day than I will.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like a lot of people work as their primary focus for the beginning of their career. It's that's the key driver in their week. It's how they spend most of their time, and then once family comes into the picture and you've got dependents to look after that are dependent on you for everything, I suppose, your just priorities have to change a little bit.
They do. It's just, do you know what, it's things that you don't even think about, like we put her into nursery because we don't have a huge amount of childcare options, and I always laugh when I hear other people saying about how they're returning from maternity. You should really get part of your maternity at the start when they're first born, and then the next part when you put them into nursery, because they pick up so many bugs that you need to, like things like that you don't really think about, where you're going, oh yeah, that's me back to work, and then they've got a cold, or they pick up a sickness bug, or they do this.
Yeah.
So that is definitely challenging at the start, that you just don't anticipate.
Yeah.
Putting them back in, but on the whole, it's been great. I'm very lucky, I suppose, for where I am to sit, especially in the position that I'm in, to have the flexibility when it comes to, you know, having to be, you know, having to leave to go and pick her up, or, you know, dropping her off, or picking her up because she's not well, or whatever else it might be. So it definitely, I mean, there definitely has been other challenges outside of what I thought would be, you know, just drop her off at nursery, work 4 days, do it all, it'll be fine. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a really obvious question then is to talk about what flexibility looks like for you, because you've mentioned there seems to be quite a lot there. So what does flexibility look like?
So I, as part of going off, I had always, you know, whilst I was pregnant during COVID, kind of put a loose plan in place as to what we were hoping to do for childcare. As part of that, I had spoken to management about dropping to 4 days, which they were able to facilitate, which again was, you know, it's an amazing opportunity, and I appreciate that not every business can accommodate for that, not every role will be able to accommodate, but Leyton have been, in management in particular, were really really supportive of accommodating what we felt was right for our situation. The flip side of the more kind of flexible, so obviously working 4 days is fantastic, but the flexibility to do a balance of working from home and working in the office. My role maybe slightly differs because I cover all of the UK. I do a bit of travelling in between that as well, so again, the flexibility to work that travelling round, you know, my schedule and when works for us. As I said, when my partner works offshore, it's not as easy to arrange childcare to not be here, but on the days that I do have to do that, or if I've got something, you know, I'm meeting a client or something along those lines, I will put in, you know, make sure that my flight leaves after I can drop her off at nursery, or I've got something arranged for that. So again, flexibility from that side of things is fantastic. It really does. It makes a massive difference. And I just think now, if I was ever to look at any opportunity, I think not being able to have that flexibility would stop me from looking at anything else. Even the likes of, you know, should a doctor's appointment, you know, it's like trying to get a doctor's appointment. Anybody's trying to get a doctor's appointment. And it's at 9 o'clock, you know, being able to log on, stick her in front of a tablet and log on to get a couple of things done, and then hop off and do that and come back, and again, that's something that really, really works for me. So in the morning, to give you paint a picture of my day, a Monday and Tuesday in particular are the days that she's in nursery full time, and so I drop her sharp, and I'm always in the office for about 8:20. I then kind of get through my day, but I also need to leave at about 4:30 to pick her up from nursery. So I log off 4:30, go back and get her. Sometimes I'll log back on while she eats her dinner, just to answer kind of a few things whilst everybody else is still online, and then I'll log back in at night and complete what has to get done. So again, just flexibility like that, where I can still do my working day, but it fits into the hours that work for our family. Because once she's down in her bed at 6:45 or whatever it is, I then have a bit of time to myself, so I can log back in, I can complete the work that I need to do, or, you know, get onto the things that I'm kind of looking for. So again, just things like that, I think, where you could take for granted not being able to have that flexible working, and just what flexible working actually looks like, because people throw the term around quite a lot, don't they?
Absolutely do.
You don't actually, I think it's very hard to appreciate what that looks like until you're actually in that situation where you require it.
And I think that everyone's picture of flexible working is different, which is why I was really keen to find out what yours looked like. And I think that it's a bit of a balancing act between for employers and for employees to have that trust on both ends.
That's what I was just going to say. It definitely is a trust.
You have to earn it. And I think having the ownership and the accountability to you know, from your perspective, to be like, right, I need to get this done. So they've given you, so you're able to kind of give back because you've got the flexibility to do so.
Well, 100%, because I think they're, you know, there isn't a physical way that I can make it work.
Yeah.
You know, when if she needs picked up, there's nothing I can do, you know. And if we didn't have that flexibility, I don't really know what our options would be in terms of how we would make it, you know, it work. And there's always, you see it all over the newspaper about, you know, women returning to work after they've you know, had kids, or you know, parents in general finding the time to make it work. So I think flexible working is a huge part of that, and I think that's, for me, probably the most important part about returning to work was actually that I had the support, not just the flexibility, but the support of management to actually to do that, and the understanding that they appreciate, you know, she's going to go home and pick up you, and she does need to leave early. However, when I'm logging back on, the job still gets done in the time that I've got for it. It's not as if anything's getting kind of left to.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So I guess, what do employers need to be aware of on that kind of topic when they're hiring people who are working parents?
It's a hard one, because people, I said to you before, people throw the term around flexible working.
Yep.
I think it's very hard for somebody who isn't a parent to understand actually what flexible working looks like for a working parent, because it's all very well to say, you know, you can be flexible with your hours, you can start early, you can work late, whatever you want to do. But I think it's understanding what the requirements are of your candidate ultimately before you've hired them. So employers looking at, you know, what is this person's situation? Is it like me, where, you know, I log off an hour early to log back on and complete that day you know, towards the end of the day? Is it somebody that starts, you know, super early and finishes a bit earlier? You know, it's what are the requirements of that person. And I think ultimately for any employer, when you're looking at a candidate that's a working parent that requires flexible working, it's ensuring that their idea of flexible working lines up with what your idea of flexible working, or is suitable. Because again, as I said before, I do appreciate that there's some jobs, there's some positions where, you know, there is a reason that there's core hours there. The flexibility maybe isn't as easy to be involved or to kind of take the lead on. Yeah. But I definitely think that I would always say, for any employer looking to hire a working parent, is understanding, you know, what are their commitments and what can they do to support that parent in returning to work, whether that be a current employee or you're hiring somebody new. It's, you know, how can they support them on that journey, and does that fit in to kind of what it is that they're looking to do. It's just talking to people and to understand your people, and knowing that you always get the best from someone when they feel like they're listened to and they feel like you understand what they need. Definitely, I agree. Fantastic. So you've had a very successful career in sales alongside raising your daughter. So what would your advice be to anyone out there who is returning to work after a period of leave, and how do you balance professional success with happiness at home? Wine. That's not just a you thing. So my advice would be on returning to work is do the phased return. I think for me was invaluable. The one thing I tell all of my friends that have had kids after me, and I told my sister, is when you're putting them into nursery, put them in like 2 weeks in advance before you go back to work, so that you get that time to yourself. But the return to work, I think do it on a phased basis, whether you're going back full time, you're going back part time. You know, you use your annual leave, use your keeping in touch days to, you know, build yourself back up, have an understanding of, you know, what's changed in the business. And, you know, I use my kit days to have calls with management, or a half day in the office, whatever it was, just so that I knew what was going on, so I understood what the changes were, you know, Leyton has changed massively in the last 5 years since I've been here. Leyton changes in weeks, so I can imagine. It really does. So in the last 5 years, your mind will be blown as to you know, how it was. But I think it's using that time to get your flow and understand work, but also to figure out how to actually do both jobs, you know, your career and then parenthood. It's how you do the two simultaneously. So use my one piece of advice would be to use that keeping in touch time, use your annual leave to make it a phased return, as opposed to just, you know, 1 week you're on maternity, the next week you're back full-time, part-time, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my idea of returning to work. What was the second part of that question?
How do you balance your professional success with happiness at home?
Okay. That's a hard one, isn't
it?
How do I balance it? So there's two things. Time management is huge. I don't just mean that during working hours. I plan my week out. I think because I am on my own for those 3 weeks especially, but even for the 3 weeks that my partner does come back, I meticulously plan out our Monday to Friday so that I'm organised with everything. The other thing, so my diary is always up to date. I've got a time that I do the shopping, I've got a time that I do the cleaning, I've got a time that I do the housework, plan to a T. If you're ever looking for me on a Monday at 8 AM, I'm in Aldi. So you can find me there. But time management I think is a huge part for me anyway. Diary management's always been a big thing for me, but I definitely plan more now than I probably ever have. And then the second part is I try and give 100% of focus to what I'm doing at the time. So if that means that I'm with Ada, I try and turn off and spend all of my time and my focus and energy on her and give her that acknowledgement that she needs. Don't get me wrong, I don't get it right every time. There's times where I have to pick something up for work, when I've got her home for dinner or whatever, and my focus maybe is elsewhere, at which point her bashing on the keyboard is enough to say,
remember me.
Correct. So I do try and focus on the time that I'm with her is for her, and the time that is work is for work. So definitely less screen time, utilising my time more effectively to get things done, not having meetings for meeting's sake, which is always a good one. And it's funny how actually because ultimately I try and do 5 days within a 4-day window. It's funny how when you actually don't have the extra time to do it, you think, God, I was spending a lot of time doing meetings that could have been emails type idea. So I think for me the two very much go hand in hand. If you want to continually grow and have further development and success, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with coming back from maternity leave and just continuing on the trajectory that you're at, or not looking for the next opportunity until your kids are a bit older. For me it kind of naturally, and as you said, I have organically grown into the role that I'm in here at Leyton. It's never been, I actually have a bit of a running joke with Jimmy that the roles I have, I've always carved out for myself type style, as opposed to here's your role, go and apply for it. It's almost been like that, this is a good opportunity type style. So it very much is an organic growth, which is just naturally continued as I've come back. But that's a massive shift from where because before I had Ada, before I was even pregnant, I'd always said, it doesn't matter having kids, I'll be gunning for the next big job, and always go, but your priorities completely shift because she is now the number one priority for me anyway. Coming back, the fact that I don't have all the childcare, I want to be able to get that extra time with her, because the time is going to come where she doesn't want to hang about with me anymore. At which point I don't imagine you're going to be cool forever, Sarah. Exactly. But that would be the two things for me, is trying to be present in what I'm doing at the moment in time, and then the flip side of it is managing my time Mondays to Friday within an inch of its life.
Look, I think that what I've really picked up on there, and what you've kind of really highlighted, is multitasking is a myth, right? People say that they multitask. They don't multitask. It's you time manage really well, and you apply your focus to what you're doing at the time to get it done. And of course, as you say, it's not always perfect, is it? There's things that come up, but if you do your absolute best to apply the time that you've got blocked off for something to the task that you've got, you kind of mitigate the risk of things bleeding into one another.
100%. And it's the whole reason that I do. I mean, I work my Outlook. Anytime anybody asks me for anything, I always say, I said to you, we're talking about doing this. my outlook's up to date. You know, just carve out time, because I'll give 100% to the time that I've got, and then, you know, it's kind of on to the next thing, and that includes, you know, leaving to go and pick Eve up, as much as I can do a fabulous call through the car, you know, when the time needs be, but I think it's so important being able, as you say, it's not multitasking, it's time management.
And I think it also highlights, as you become a parent, and as your family grows, you are still developing these soft skills that become absolutely integral to your ability to do your job well.
100%.
Your ability to switch it on and be able to time manage and time block. It's maybe something that people didn't have to do before they've maybe then had a family, and it's something they're having to learn, but it's all these soft skills that keep developing outside of work, that help you inside of work as well.
It is. There's always a running joke, because he is a very good sleeper, and she always has been. But I feel like I time managed her from the second she was here. It was like, right, you're getting a routine, because mummy's not got time to do the rest of it. And it's funny, because I've got friends who've, you know, found themselves in similar situations, where their partner's working away and they've not had that extra person to support on, and they'll say, you know, how do you do it? And I'm like, but I literally just plan everything ahead. You know, make your life easier. If there is an easier way of doing it, do it. You know, don't go to Asda and wrestle a child for an hour. Do a click and collect. You know, drop them off, get it delivered to your house. You know, it's I always call it subcontracting, you know, just put out jobs wherever you can.
Yes, I love it.
To try and work your way through. But Ada was very much time managed from the second that she came out. So she's got a firm bedtime, firm nap time, and she runs pretty much on clockwork, which is great.
Perfect. Kids thrive on routines, so there you go. She's happy.
I think so anyway, but hey ho.
Perfect. We have kind of briefly touched on this in something you said earlier, but really keen to understand what you think additional challenges face working mothers.
Guilt.
Mum
guilt. It is hard to, especially because 9 times out of 10 you're the one that they want, you know, when you're coming back, so there is that element. You've also just spent however many months, you know, with them, whether that's 12 months or 2 months or 5 months. Your whole life is consumed by this person, and I think for me a huge challenge actually when you come back to work is not a sense of relief, but you come back and you're like, oh, this is what it's like to, you know, have conversation with adults, to
be a whole human.
Correct. To use my brain. I forgot I had one. And I think that is a challenge for any working mum, and I'm sure, you know, all parents get it, but in particular I think when you have spent that amount of time to come back, and then always I think, rightly or wrongly, the assumption is always that the mum will, you know, will do where they can, you know, and I'm in a position where, you know, pretty much that is my only option. You know, the North Sea is a substantially longer flight home than it is to go from Glasgow to mine, but I think it's the assumption of something goes wrong, you're the one that has to be there. You know, you're the one that's got to step in, and that can be a challenge when you come back to work. But I think the environment that you work in very much influences how you feel about returning to work, because when I came back to work, you know, I was surrounded by other working parents, and people understood what it was to be, you know, a relatively new parent coming back into a working environment, the challenges that poses, you know, for any parent, but in particular for, you know, a mum coming back after spending all that time and now trying to wear both hats at the same time. But as I said to you before, like focusing your energy on, you know, doing work, that's very hard to do when you've spent 9 months, 12 months, however many, focusing on when your child's eating and when your child's sleeping, and, you know, how many episodes of Little Baby Bum or Cocomelon can you watch, and actually what it's like to, you know, use your brain for more than singing a nursery rhyme in your head. You know, what do they call that? An earworm? It just gets in your head. Getting rid of earworms, there's your number one challenge for the nursery rhymes. But yeah, I think does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think it's different.
I love what you said about like the environment really dictates the challenges almost, and it dictates how you feel about coming back to work as a working mother. Have continued to develop, you've continued to progress, and I think that not everyone always feels like they have the option to do that because of the demands of life at home, and maybe the perception that their workplace would have around their ability to manage a larger role or a more complex role because of the demands that they have at home. Maybe the perception that they will be the one to have to pick up the sickness, or people need to be picked up or whatnot. So I guess that I just really liked what you said about that there.
It's funny because someone once said to me, and I really admire this person, but they also have a young child, and they are again in a sales capacity position, and they were fighting for their next step up, and she said, like, you're only working 4 days, and I said, well, yeah, because that works for our family, and that's the way we want to do it. She's like, I'm going back 5 because we'll just never get that next step. I'll never get the next step up if I don't go back full time. And I just thought that's really sad that and again I said that I said it before, if your business can accommodate for it, then I completely understand, but I don't think she ultimately was giving up the time that she wanted to have with her child because she felt as though her progression was almost stunted by going off maternity and having a child in comparison to her male counterparts who weren't off for 12 months, 9 months, whatever that may be. And again, the same can be said on the flip side. If you've paternity leave can be outstanding for some people, and they 50-50 or they do whatever it may be. But I thought that was interesting. I think that is the difference of the impact of environment.
Absolutely.
If I'm sitting here feeling encouraged almost to have that time, to enjoy family life as much as I enjoy my career and development, and still continue a trajectory that I had put in place for myself prior to maternity, because I mean other than getting shot of the earworms and using my time to build myself back up, I haven't stepped back in any way from where I was heading prior to going off in maternity. So I definitely think that the environment is key.
Absolutely. Your capacity to have ambition and drive and to deliver in your role, nothing changes when you have a family. Your priorities might be different, but if you still want those things, to be in an environment that encourages you to be yourself and do that is fantastic.
Definitely. I think, as you say, your ambition doesn't go anywhere. Well, for me it didn't. I'm talking widely here, but for me anyway, it wasn't about my ambition that changed or where I wanted to ultimately finish my career. It was more around what I wanted. It's how you get there whilst still having your number one priority, which will always be your child. So making the best effort.
Support and environment, I love it. Perfect. So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me for the first full proper episode. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've got lined up for partnerships at Leyton?
So much. So we've kind of given it a bit of a facelift for partnerships. We've always done it, looking at how we can expand our partnership channel throughout the UK. So we've done a huge amount of growth over the last 12 months, which is very exciting. We are aiming for some big numbers this year that we're on track for, which I'm very excited about. But I suppose a lot of the stuff that we've got in the pipeline at the moment in time will be around how we do more educational work with the partnerships that we already have in place. A lot of the membership bodies that we are a part of, we're going to be working with them to kind of highlight some of their members and do a wee bit more work on the educational piece, both on R&D but on the additional services for energy and capital allowances, So yeah, just bigger growth, hopefully grow the team out as well. Our social media presence will be expanding over the coming months as well. So yeah, it's you know what, it's a really exciting time. It's a big change. For me in particular, I've always done new business throughout my career, so partnerships definitely was a shift, but it's really exciting, and seeing some of the work that we do with some of our accounting partners in particular, where you know we've maybe helped the odd client here and there, and now we've got, you know, formal partnerships set up, and they're seeing huge volumes of clients benefiting from the partnership. It really is great. It's exciting to see what we can do. Met some fantastic people, and we'll continue that over the coming months. But yeah, big growth I would foresee over the next 6 months or so, and another exciting year heading into last quarter. So big finish, and then big next year.
This sounds great. Sounds exciting.
Oh, fingers crossed.
You've got a vision. I'm excited to see it come true.
Yes,
it's great. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we finish up?
I mean, I could chat for ages.
I know you could. Anything you want to say?
No, I think, do you know what? Leyton has changed massively in the last 5 years. The last 3 have been huge since COVID. But I think for any prospective candidates looking to work with us, for anybody who's in a role at the moment in time in Leyton that's looking for, you know, where their career can take them, the best thing, and I always say it, and I have done since I came here, the best thing about Leyton is actually that there is always change.
Yes.
We are, as a business, innovative. You know, it's influenced by its employees. You know, there's things that have happened in this company that the idea or the concept has come from one person who, you know, sat in a sales led role or a business development role. It's not all done at, you know, board level. That is the best thing about Leyton, is that, you know, ideas or concepts can turn into reality. So I think, you know, if you are looking for your next step up, speak to your manager. You know, express, you know, what you're looking for. The training that we have in this business is second to none, and the commitment to training and development, I think, is second to none. You know, there's always something. I was on a course last week for finance training for non-financial managers, and it's so interesting, you know, and being able to have that understanding and knowledge share, for me when I'm dealing with accountants, you know, day in, day out, is invaluable.
Absolutely.
So it just shows you, you know, an example. All of our managers are going through really in-depth management and coaching training from internal. It's just things like that, I think, where, you know, we really do invest in our staff, and I think if you are working for Leyton, I encourage people to speak to their managers, and do more. If you want to work in the partnership team, come speak to me. And if you're not, and you're looking for a company that I suppose genuinely allows you the opportunity to build and develop your career, then it's definitely the place to be. I would strongly recommend having a conversation with one of our fabulous talent acquisition team. But yeah, I think that's all for me, unless there's anything else you wanted to add in.
No, honestly, I think that's perfect. I love how fast paced and open minded Leyton is as a business. Like, that's something I've picked up in the short time that I've been here, is just how ready for ideas people are, and they are excited about people who come forward with ideas. 100%.
And it's, you know, majority of the campaigns that we've worked on and the successes that we've seen from a, you know, almost like a new qualifying area, they've come from somebody who's gone, do you know what, I think that might be a good idea, and then you know, sit down and the idea just grows arms and legs and turns into something bigger, and it's amazing to see, and I've seen it so many times over the last 5 years, and I would foresee that we'll see it more and more over the coming years. But yeah, I think fast paced is exactly the right phrase to describe Leyton. You know, not just in the sales capacity. I mean, most sales functions are fast paced. Leyton as a business is fast paced, as you said. You know, there's change goes on every week, and there is. And I think being able to embrace the change and actually see what the vision is, and I think that is, you know, a lot of it is visionary. It's
Yes.
you know, this is where we're going, and this is how we're getting there type thing. So it's very exciting, and it's and it has been for 5 years, which I think is not, there's not a lot of companies that I can say that I've worked for that length of time where I've been enthused and excited along the journey.
Yes.
And I do definitely think you get that here.
Fantastic. We're so glad you're here.
Oh.
We're so glad to have you. Okay, amazing. Thank you again, Sarah. That was such a good chat. Thank you to everyone who is listening along at home. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. So we're going to be back in 2 weeks' time with our 3rd episode, and yes, I said 2 weeks' time because I've been working away behind the scenes, and since our 1st episode it's become very clear that we have so many brilliant people, all of whom want to take part in this madness, so I'm going to need to release 2 episodes a month. But until then, if you are one of the members of our talent community and you're interested in finding out more about what the future might look like at Leyton, please do reach out to one of us here in the talent acquisition team. I'll put my contact details in the description below, or check out our careers page for the roles we have live currently. We'll be back in a few weeks' time. Thanks again, Sarah, for sharing your story. Thank you all for listening. This has been episode 2 of the Life at Leyton podcast.
Thank you.